Cozy Club, how are we doing today? It is a beautiful day for some DSA and welcome back. Today we're going to go ahead and go over all of the debuffs in the game and rank them on how effective that they are. If you want to stay up to date with everything involving Disney Sorcerer's Arena, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below if you don't want to miss a video. It's a great way to show support and I very much appreciate it. So I can't stress enough how important it is to know all the status effects within DSA. It's going to help you prepare for battle better. It's going to help you in battle to know what debuffs you should put out and what exactly is going on with your own team when you see those red icons and yellow icons above your characters. All right, so a couple ground rules. I'm not going to be ranking any of the character-specific debuffs. That means Davy Jones' Black Spot and Jafar's Time is Running Out is not going to make the list. There's a little bit of niche in there and I don't want to focus on those. Instead, I want to put my focus on the most common debuffs that you're going to see. With this list, I just want you guys to keep in mind, just because a debuff is low doesn't mean it's not a good debuff. Most of these actually are really helpful within the game. And yes, some of these that are a little bit lower are going to be better versus certain teams. For instance, Helpful Immunity is obviously very good against Frozen as they rely on buffs more than other teams. My rankings on these debuffs are going to focus on exactly what the debuff does in battle and how much of an advantage it gives you when using your characters versus the enemy teams. All right, looking at the 15 debuffs we're going to rank, let's start with the last ranking debuff at number 15, and that is going to be Critical Chance Down. Now, critical chance down is exactly what it sounds. It's going to go ahead and lower the critical chance rate that the enemy has to score a critical hit. But the thing with that is that critical chance is already a chance, right? And sure, against Shan Yu or Dash, this is probably a useful debuff a little bit, but this is going to come last as it's a little bit niche and it's already a chance. So you're just lowering that just a little bit. And that's why it belongs at the last spot of number 15. Number 14 on the list is going to be Fear. And yes, we just made a video about Lotso and friends and how amazing that team is with Fear. It's really just the interactions within their kit that the more Fear on the field makes those interactions stronger and those abilities stronger rather than the Fear itself. So Fear effectively is going to give the target 0 evasion and 0% tenacity. So you can land debuffs on them and they can also not evade. So Fear's a decent debuff. Now, hopefully they do buff Fear. I don't know if it's going to happen anymore with how strong Lotso and them rely on Fear. If they made Fear a bigger and better debuff, then Lotso and gang are going to get a lot better. Instead, I think we're going to have more characters that output Fear, making that team grow over time. Coming in at number 13 is going to be Defense Down. And whoa. Early and mid-game players, I know you're thinking Defense Down's incredible. And yes, it's good. And mid-game, early game, Defense Down is a very strong debuff because the offense going against the defense doesn't equal out to as much as when you get to T7 and near the end game. Aside from stopping big tanks like Simba, Mordu, or Mr. Incredible, this isn't something that's going to help you a lot towards the end game. And yes, with Simba and his pesky passive, this will help get rid of him a little bit faster, but usually Simba's the last one on the field anyway, so you can just focus everybody on Simba and get him down that way. It's a nice little buff to your damage, but it's going to end up as number 13 on the list. Number 12 is Heal Block. Now, Heal Block can be very clutch and very strategic at certain times, and some teams rely on healing. However, healing's just not a strong mechanic right now in DSA. We slowly see healing getting better and better within DSA, but slapping on Heal Block on the enemy is typically not going to solve your problems as the damage can outweigh them anyway, and the healing that's done by characters isn't that great to begin with. So for the rest of these, I don't have anything negative to say about them. It's not that they're in this spot because they're negative. We're really just looking at the top debuffs in the game now. We're looking at the ones that are going to be most effective on the field. So just because it's here doesn't mean it's a bad debuff again. It's just where it ends up when compared to the other ones. Number 11. Continuous damage. So this just shows how many strong debuffs are in DSA because continuous damage is amazing, and some characters like Demona and Hades rely on this to weaken the enemy and punish them, while Wild Imagination puts this out with Heal Block, and it can get strong over time, and it's a great way to counter defense up or heavy defense characters. This is a great debuff, and there's some really strategic and awesome teams out there that utilize it. I have nothing negative to say about it other than it sits at number 11. Number 10 is going to be Vulnerable, and Vulnerable is great because it's going to be that big red X over the enemy, and whenever you do an attack, it's a guaranteed critical hit. It's going to stay on there until somebody attacks that unit. which is great, but at the same time, not so much. If Ana were to get hit and she throws her torch as a basic counter, it's going to use up that critical hit when you want to save it for someone like Zerg's Rapid Ion Blaster or Zerg Vision or any of the other big, powerful attacks in DSA. It can be great when used properly, but it's underwhelming at times, and that's what ends it up at number 10. Number 9 is Blind, and Blind is a powerful debuff within DSA. Essentially, it's going to make the enemy have a 50% chance to land a successful attack on your team. It's very annoying to have on your side, but it can be life-saving when on the enemy team, and you just hope that that 50% coin flip goes in your favor. It's especially good to put on someone like Zerg or Dash, because Zerg's Rapid Ion Blaster is going to have every single time it shoots that, it's going to have a 50% chance to land a hit. It's going to last for the entire attack, not just one of his pellets. So essentially, multi-attacks, this is especially good for. Number 8 is going to be Helpful Immunity, and Helpful Immunity is very powerful. We just talked about it at the beginning of the intro. When used on certain teams, this can be a game changer. Put this on a taunt and you shut down that character from most of the reason why that character is in that slot to suck up the damage. Now it's just sitting there looking dumb and stupid. Not a lot of characters right now can use this, but if we see a character that can mass do a Helpful Immunity, that's going to be absolutely nuts and should counter the Frozen team if that were to come. Number 7 is going to be Offense Down. Now, Offense Down is a very game-changing buff, and it can turn the tide of battle with just one debuff. What it's going to do effectively is cut the attack on the enemy that it's on or your own character down by 50%. 50% of the offense that they have. So they're useless, or even at least half useless for a turn. And this really, with Ana, with her AoE offense down, can really change where you stand in battle. And you could win the whole battle by just getting this out here, buying yourself another turn to get down more enemies and then overcoming them. This is like Helpful Immunity on tanks. You put this on an offensive character and it will shut them down for one turn. Silence effectiveness went shooting skyward whenever the nerf happened to Blue Fairy Magic. You can effectively take a character out of battle all the way outside of their basic ability. This is why a lot of people are calling for Dad Pants to be nerfed, as it does a mass silence on the entire team. But there's some other strong characters that can pump out silence and really give you the advantage. Now, you could move this even a couple more spots forward, because what it also does is it can silence passives from happening within DSA. Not all passives, there's some passives that still work, but keep in mind, let's say you silence Dr. Facilier and then all of a sudden he doesn't heal when someone dies. That effectively removes such a big portion of his kit. Or when you kill Elsa and she doesn't do glacial armor, this is a very strong debuff. It could be higher, but the ones above it just do a little bit more. Number 5 is Slow. And guys, you know speed is everything within DSA. It counts how much your characters are going to do abilities. It's going to matter how much your character just does anything within the battlefield. And with Slow, you're going to cut their speed by 50%. You're going to make someone like Dash, the fastest character in the game, all the way down to the 60, 70 stat line, where he's now the slowest character when compared to others. It's a huge advantage on the battlefield, and that's why it's ranked so high. All right, now we're going to move on to the debuffs that sit well above the rest. These are the debuffs that shut down the enemy completely, and they're kind of in a league of their own. Now, they're all debuffs are good within DSA, but these ones are going to help you shut down that enemy team. Number 4 is Polymorph. Now, I know you guys are going to say, but Polymorph is a character-specific debuff, but you can see Polymorph from a spell, and I think they're going to add it to more characters. Now, usually it takes shape in the form of a frog, and the reason it sits here, it's going to turn the character you're fighting against into a different object or character. In most cases, again, it's a frog. Now, this is a little bit below some of the other debuffs because you can still activate spells, or if you have toy soldiers on your team, you can do a basic and they help assist. But overall, this is a very strong debuff and one of the best in the game. Number 3 is going to be Sleep. Now, Sleep is another strong debuff within this game. It will shut down a character from even using or consuming a turn. They can't use spells when it comes up to the sleeping character. However, there is a caveat. You do have to work around the sleep. If for any reason you do an AoE or a flanking or adjacent attack that hits the enemy, it's going to wake them up, causing sleep to go away, and then they can do everything as normal. I've asked you this before, but if you guys want to see an adjacent or flanking attack video, I do have that coming soon. I hope you guys want to see a whole positioning guide and attack guide within DSA. Number 2 is going to be stun. Now, stun is exactly what sleep does. However, it can't be interrupted, right? So you're going to shut down a character on the enemy team for the course of their turn. And it can be so frustrating to have one of your hard-hitting characters or support characters or tank characters to be stunned. It's a super effective debuff, and it's one that if it's on your team, you're going to be frustrated, but if you're pumping it out, man, is it not only a lifesaver, but it's very satisfying to use. Stun is amazing. We're seeing people like Elsa be able to do an AoE stun, which is just bonkers when you think about it. And hopefully we see not too many stuns come out in the game because it's a debuff we don't want to see too much of, but it is the number 2 debuff in the game. And lastly, for the number 1 debuff in Disney Sorcerer's Arena, that is going to be Charm, my friends. That little pink heart above the enemy. This is the debuff in this game. I've talked about it before. I've talked about it on other videos. Charm is everything. And the reason it's the best debuff in this game is it does what stun does. It does what polymorph does. However, you're going to use the enemy's own character against themselves. And that's just such a satisfying thing to see. So anyone with a very effective basic attack like Genie or Simba decreasing speed turn meter, now they're working with you. And a neat little tip that I learned just the other day is if you do put this on Genie, when you attack with your Genie, he's going to help you out also. So Charm is just an incredible debuff that you're going to be able to use in so many different situations. You're going to borrow a character from the enemy team for a short time, and it's easily the best debuff within DSA. Currently, Jafar, Jack Sparrow, Olaf, and some others can use Charm. And guys, now with Chunk, you can extend it. So I've had, again, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 turn extended Charm with Chunk on my team using someone like Jafar. I love what it does in this game, and it all fits characters that deserve it, right? You've got Captain Jack Sparrow. He's charming. Jafar, well, he's not handsome by any means, but he is persuasive. And it just overall works well with tying to the movies and being the best debuff. All right, guys, so there you go. All 15 debuffs that are not character specific in DSA. Hopefully this helped you understand the debuffs a little bit better if you didn't. My very first video I ever did, now it's low quality and some of it's wrong, but you can find out my first video is on all of the debuffs and positive buffs in DSA. Guys, let me know in the comments below if you wanted to see me do the exact same thing for the buffs within this game. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on over to the Cozy Club. You can find me on YouTube, Discord, and Twitch. And in the meantime, you guys go ahead and stay cozy, my friends.